in economics. It has worked for the American Beverage Association, for Coca-Cola and Pepsi, to fight legislation that would require the recycling of soda pop bottles. And this PR company had some focus groups in California in which they tried to find the figure, the number, that would be high enough to scare people, but not so high as to lose credibility. And they decided that that number was $400. So they put in their ads, that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from any calculations at all. It's not the price of, oh, they'd have to replace it with organic food or this or that. It's purely a PR move. Do you understand? This is where these people come from. They don't think about truth as a factor in their deciding what they're going to say. They don't actually evaluate their message by whether or not it's accurate. It's whether or not it will sell their product, whether or not it will protect them. Do you really think that Monsanto spent, and its allies spent, $45 million, all out-of-state money, by the way, all of it, to defeat this California proposition because they were concerned about the average California family's annual food bill? Not in the slightest. They want you ignorant. They want you unaware of what you're eating and how it was produced. It is a war on awareness. It's a war against consciousness. It's an effort to keep us eating in the dark, living in the dark, unaware of the consequences of our actions, unaware of the wider implications of our interconnection with life. But there is equally, and I think formidably, arising in us the capacity to defeat Monsanto, to prevent them from controlling the world's food supply. And to be true to who we are, which is powerful people, strong people. We don't have to be ignorant, and we don't have to let them suppress our effort to know, our effort to be aware, our right to know how our food is produced. The ag-gag laws that make it illegal for you or I to take pictures and show people what's going on. In Diet for New America, I have photographs that I took in factory farms of what was done to the animals. Today, taking those pictures would be a felony. Fortunately, I did it before, but they had these laws passed, and partly it was in response to the response to Diet for New America that they passed these laws. They don't want you to know. They don't want people seeing it, because even Julia Child found it abominable, and you would too, and so would your mother and your cousin and your brother and your aunt and whoever mocks you for your being healthy, for your food choices, or caring. If they saw it, most people like their dogs or their cats. Very few people. As a society, we are very kind, generally speaking, to our pets. We feed them, we pay their vet bills, we give them names, they sleep on our beds, we think of them as part of our families. And they give us a lot in return. Probably more than we give them, but I think it's a beautiful thing. And yet we make it this distinction, a semantic distinction. We call some animals pets, and we love them and lavish our affection on them and get so much in return. We bond with them. We love them. And then we call other animals livestock, or we call them dinner, or we call them food animals. And we think that we are entitled, by virtue of that distinction, to treat those animals with any manner of contempt so long as it lowers the price per pound. I think this is a schizoid way of relating to animals. And it splits us down the middle as people. It splits us. It splits us off from our compassion in our hearts in significant ways that we don't know about unless we start to feel into this. Now, when I say that we make it, we actually do have laws in every one of the 50 states against cruelty to animals. But do you know that every single one of those 50 states' legislation specifically exempts from the legislation animals destined for human consumption? This is what I mean. If we have animals that we call livestock, we call them food animals, we don't any longer have any protection for them. As long as the practices, the agricultural practices, the factory farm practices are considered normal in the industry, they're legal. Well, some of what is normal is abominable. And I want to thank you for taking a stand in the ways that you can for compassion. Compassion gets a bad name sometimes. There's a way in which, as men in particular, we're taught that it's sissy, it's weak, and to be compassionate, to be empathic. And you're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to not feel these things, you're supposed to be numb. You know, and that makes you a good soldier, maybe, because then you can go out and kill people without noticing what you're doing. But the truth of ourselves is, compassion is our strength. Compassion is what allows us to connect with one another, to build healthy families, to build healthy relationships. As men, to build healthy relationships with women or other men, with children, with our sons and daughters, with the earth itself. And if we think that it's wimpy or weak to care, if we somehow split ourselves off from the power of our own hearts like that, we lose badly. And that's how the cultural trance keeps us weak, keeps us small, keeps us divided from ourselves, from each other, from the connections and integrity of our life with each other, from our life on this earth. The skies, the purity of the air, the quality of the air we breathe, the purity of the water we drink. All of this is at stake today. The deterioration of the biosphere as a result of human activities is egregious. You know that. Every one of us